The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. That quote, though very cool, does not literally does not apply at all to Carlsbad Caverns National Park. Carlsbad Caverns is a interesting and deep cavern, very deep cavern in southern New Mexico. It is a place that you need a timed entry to get into. So the night before, or maybe a day or two in advance, make sure you go on the National Park website. Even if you have a park pass, you still have to pay $1 because that's going to help with the national deficit in order to get in. And don't mess up like we did and buy one for the day previously somehow. Luckily, they were nice enough to still let us in, and we got this amazing footage. Apologies that I forgot to film in night mode for literally any of this, but luckily parts of this are well lit. Other parts are not well lit. They lit up the ceiling, which is great, but they didn't light up the paths. So if you're with an older person, make sure to hold them the whole time. Unlike me, I did not hold the older person I was with, but that was okay. And we all survived. There is an elevator. Somehow, I don't know how they put an elevator down in these caverns, but they did. Maybe it was always there. You never know. And you can take that all the way back up, as opposed to not all the way back up. As we look down, you're going to see some really good perspective on what these caverns are like and just how deep they are. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the big room, which we will be walking to, is over 250 feet in height and hundreds, if not thousands of feet wide. It is massive, and every room you're in, you're going to think is the big room, and it's not. And then when you finally get to the big room, you're not going to think it's the big room because there's so many stalactites and stalagmites that it kind of breaks up the big room. There's a lot of really interestingly named things in Carlsbad Caverns, such as the Bottomless Pit and the Fairy Garden. Both of those have very, different sounding names. The Bottomless Pit is not bottomless. It's only 100 feet deep. And for centuries, people were actually throwing rocks in the bottomless pit and then listening for minutes or maybe hours to see if they could hear anything. Little did they know that it was only 100 feet deep and they were throwing rocks into basically mud. And that's why they couldn't hear anything, because they were just thumping on the mud. So that's kind of cool. As this cave was discovered by humans, of course, a lot of local legend and lore became involved. 15,000 years ago, there were natives living here in the Guadalupe Mountains, and they discovered and were some of the first, or maybe the first actually, to explore these caves. And exploration continued up into the 1500s with the Spanish conquistadors, who, of course, thought that they could find gold in the caves, and they didn't. I didn't find any gold either, but that's all right. That's why we're doing YouTube. Still to this day, there are people exploring these caves. I don't know how they get permission to do that, because basically everything's a walkway. But you can probably talk to some park staff if you're a spelunker, and you can get in there and go exploring. I would imagine it would be pretty interesting to do. At one point in this video, you're going to see that there is this rickety old ladder, and apparently one of the early cave explorers of the 1900s just threw that down and went into uncharted territory, which is crazy, especially if you're someone that watches all those horrifying cave videos on YouTube about all the crazy accidents that happen in caves. That didn't happen here, thankfully. Everything was big enough that we fit, which is nice. On top of the caverns, there is a desert, and as you're driving in, you're going to be greeted to really spectacular scenery. And if you're someone that likes the desert, This national park has plenty of hikes up there, as in like 3, but that's plenty of time to go hiking. And you can always go hike, or you can always go take a walk, I guess, in the caverns where it's always 56 degrees. Um, Once again, if you're with an older person, they might be cold, so make sure that they bring a sweater. I was not cold. And one thing that I'll say as I'm rewatching this footage along with you is that make sure that when you're here, you're not on your phone the whole time, because I literally remember none of this. These big, beautiful rooms, and I was filming the whole time in not night mode, so I couldn't really capture all of this. And if you see any jumbly stuff, it's because the gimbal wasn't working. And I guess we can tell the story here right now. It's because we were actually at a different national park filming a video for this channel. We had it all set to go, and we were climbing up a sand dune at the Great Sand Dunes in Colorado, which is maybe 8 or so hours from here. And I dropped my camera, and the gimbal has never worked the same. But at least we got the footage. Unfortunately, I then vacuumed up the micro SD that had that footage while preparing for the arrival of the old person that we ended up going to this national park with. And that footage is completely lost forever. So now I have a narration of a trip to the Great Sand Dunes that was totally pointless. At least this wasn't. This was a fantastic national park, totally unique among places like this. If you're into mountains and forests and stuff, you're not really going to see that here. And that's fine, you know. Shenandoah is for another day, right? When you're at Carlsbad Caverns. There's 300 caves to explore here. I'm now literally just rambling to try to fill time. I think this is a good chance to say, if you like this video, maybe think about hitting the like button and subscribing. Usually we don't talk, but I figured I had some really expert insight into how to take a good trip here, and I just couldn't help but share that with everybody. So I think I'll step back now, and we're just going to go check out the big room and some of the cooler sights, and you're going to really love to see just how good the camera does without even its night mode. So have a good one. Thanks.